Hello everyone, you watching Blues, Hot Wheels, and more. This video, I will be explaining the origin story of the Nissan Skyline GTR R32, also known as Godzilla. Why is it called Godzilla? How did it start? Why did it happen? How did it become that? What is the truth about it? What are the rumors? And how can it be explained? It will be explained through diecast, I guess maybe even action figures, and possibly movies. Because these things kind of intertwine. So let's get on with this video. First off, let's start with Godzilla. What is the Godzilla during the time? What are these cars during the time? In late of 1989, the beginning, 1990, there was a car developed called a Nissan Skyline GTR R32. This car was developed in between 1990 and 1993 in its racing career in Group A racing. And it won many races, and it was a great car. It was banned. That car was banned from racing because it was so badass. And because it didn't meet the requirements. Kind of like Bop. A little bit like Bop, Balance of Power. Things were different back then. And in different countries, they did different things. And NASCAR is a good example. And drag racing. Where like NASCAR, cars were built different ways where you can make them faster and stuff, and they can win races. But you have Bop. You balance the power now. So these cars had an advantage and were just good. But why is it called Godzilla? Well, who is this Godzilla? This here is a 1989 Godzilla. This is what it looks like. It's a little figure, right? And that's during this time in 1989. This movie, Godzilla vs. Violent, came out. And it was a new Godzilla compared to all the ones that were like even in the 80s, but in the 70s and the 60s with a guy in a rubber suit. It changed and it evolved and got better. This is 1993. 1993 Mechagodzilla and 1993 Godzilla. That's what he looked like when they had him in the suit. That's what Mechagodzilla looked like. That's what Rodan looked like. During the time when this car, the R32, which is what all these are, when it came out, that's the Godzilla that was out at the time. So this Godzilla car, why is it called Godzilla? How did it start? Well, they call it Godzilla because it's a monster. It's from Japan. It's a Japanese vehicle. And it's a monster, and it's the king of the monsters, and it was winning a lot of races. But how did it start? I would say this car right here. This car right here is different than this car, and all of those cars in there, which I will show you as well. This is different. This is an Australian car. These are Japanese, drove by Japanese mostly. This is Australia. This is an Australian driver. It's a Japanese car. But the car has been Australianized. What is Australianized? What are you talking about? Australianized is like the movie Mad Max. Like the Road Warrior Mad Max. If you've seen that movie with Mel Gibson in Australia, there's a history, a car history. One of the biggest things that I remember about cars in Australia, how the Australians had gotten the rights to build 351 Cleveland motors after America quit using them. The Australians used them, and they made these. They made these four barrel heads that were Australian heads that were huge intakes for fuel and exit exhaust heads. Better than the regular 4-barrel heads for the Cleveland. Their Australian heads were even better. They built crazy strong motors. And if you watch Mad Max, they took that car that he had, and that mechanic, that Australian 50s greaser looking dude, was like, "Look, mate, she runs on nitro, mate." And it's got this blower on it. And it was just crazy fast, and it was a good, strong motor. That's Australianized. They build drag cars. They build these cars as drag cars. And when they raced them back in the day, they did stuff to them. Let's get a look at that car. Let's get a look inside these. Under the hood there. RB26. There's all your gadgets inside. There it is. This right here is the reason why they call the car Godzilla. It's the Australian R32 when it was racing in Australia at the same time that they were racing in Japan. The ones in Australia, they came up with it. They were like, "Oh, there goes Godzilla," because they said that because it was a Japanese car and it's a GTR, starts with a G, and it's a monster. It screams like how Godzilla screams. It breathes out fire when it has the back pressure off of the turbo and stuff, and that's how it just caught on, and it was a winner. There was 4 or 5 of these cars in Australia. One of them got wrecked, like it's beyond repair, and one of them was hidden for a real long time, and it just recently came back, and they like revived them and brought them back. They were champion cars. They didn't win every single race. Like this car did not win every single race. It lost at least one, but it won most of them. And there was another one just like this, and it had a number 2 on the car. And that was those 2 guys drove, and that was the order of the cars most of the time, 1 and 2. And there was another car that was like this, but it was red, kind of like on this on top, a little darker, and it said Winston. I don't know if that was Winston cigarettes or something else Winston. And there was another one that was kind of a reddish, and it said not G.I. Joe, but G.I.O. on the door right here, and that was Gibson. And that was a car that had won. All those cars won races, and they didn't win them all, but they won most of them. These 2 cars in particular that are like this. There's number 1, and there's another one just like it. It just has the number 2 on it for a gumball. When they raced, they would be all the way in the back of the line. And when that gun went off, or they threw down that flag, as soon as the race started, it was over. Literally over as soon as it started. Like within a matter of seconds, before they'd even get to the first turn. Number 1, number 2, Godzilla. Boom! Out of the line, behind the back. They would go around all the cars right to the front immediately. Smoke the other cars. Leave them in the dust. These cars weren't normal. These cars were all-wheel drive. That is one of the big key factors of this being a winning car. I would say that's what made them win, really. I mean, it can be some driving habits. It can be about the motor, the horsepower, the turbo, a lot of that other stuff. It's mainly because it's 4-wheel drive. They're beating other cars that don't have all-wheel drive. They're smoking them because these cars can handle and take turns better and just rip through it. They got all-wheel drive, and they got upgrades. That's why I said they were Australianized. They had switches and stuff on the interior. You can go look this up, by the way. If you ever want to know anything about the car, you can look it up. Look up Australian, R32, Skyline, Birth Bass, or whatever, and you'll get a whole bunch of stuff showing the history of the cars. They won, and they took the parts of the cars and made them different than what like the guys in Japan were doing. The guys in Australia Australianized them. In a way, you could say it's kind of cheating, but there wasn't no rules of balance of power until they banned it. They even banned the Japanese ones too. But the cars, like they could make the front tires, the front wheels, and the back wheels take certain amounts of torque for the most part. How much of that power do you want to send to the front wheels? They could change the way it steers from the inside with a switch, how they want it. They could change on, they put different parts on for the turbos. They were obviously modifying the motors and doing all kinds of, they were just beasts, killing everything for the most part. But they did not win every race. But that's the true story of how the Godzilla GTR, Godzilla Skyline GTR, that's how it started. It's not, everybody's saying that R33, R34, R35, those are Godzillas too. But they are not the original Godzilla. They are not the OG. The OG, the one that has the record to make it what it is the R32. That is the one that's undefeated. The other ones have been defeated, and they didn't come first. The R32 came first. That's why the car is Godzilla. That is the truth. And the credit goes to the Australians who thought of the idea of making it that. That's why you have this right now. and these Hot Wheel cars. This one with Godzilla right there. This one with Godzilla. You wouldn't have got that without the Australians. They made it. Making the JDM, Skyline, R32, R33, R34, all of them are called Godzillas now, and it wouldn't have happened if any of that wouldn't have happened without the Australians. But it also, I don't think it would have happened also without the Japanese, because first off, they're Japanese vehicles, right? And the Japanese were winning every race. They didn't lose any race. They won every race from 1990 to 1993, and they won in their class. I'll show you that. This right here is old. This came out a while ago, a long time ago. This is Tomica, and it's Japanese. And they made the cars. These are the champion cars. These are the ones that won the races. And won, you know what I'm saying? Like, one of them won at least first place in every race. Between 1990 and 93. And this car right here is the same thing as this one. This is just a pop race version, but this is the original Tomica version of that Kawasaki Skyline right there. And then you have the BP. That was driven by I want to say a guy, it was a white guy that was English, I think. Or he's from another country, he's not American. But he raced in Japan and won a couple of races. And then there's your HKS. This one was winning a race one time and was winning all the laps and like didn't change tires or something. And then on the very last couple of seconds of the race, this one won. And this one has won other ones. And then there's your Advan STP, which they don't use STP, they'll use Advan. That was champion. That's Jex. A lot of people don't know about this one. You don't see that often. That's Jex. And there's Kyoshik, which I thought one of these might have been like cat litter or something like that. But those are the sponsors. You know, there they are like on the card like that. They won in Japan. They were fast, crazy too. They were all-wheel drive with turbo and stuff, but they were not as radical as the Australian cars. But these guys were balanced of power more, even though these got banned too. They were still more balanced of power than the Australian ones. You know, they still applied by some rules, but they still had the advantage because they're all-wheel drive, I believe, for the most part. There were other ones, not just those 6, that won races, maybe not first place. Very often, maybe they got, second, third. Maybe they got an 8th or 9th place, and this was one of them. Akia, which I showed a video of that one, and then this is Castrol and it has Reebok because there was one that had Reebok on it. We'll get a look at that. This is your pop race, okay, and I have that Australian one now. These are pretty nice. They make another pop race of this one. This is the mini GT version, and I like the pop race diecast cars of the R32s that they used to race back then. Pop race is really nice. I really like those. This here is just classic. You know what I mean? This is like, it's Japanese. It's Tomica. It's original. It's very special to me. And like this ain't included, or this one. So I'm going to open this. We'll get a look at the mini GT version. All right. So the mini GT version looks good, but it doesn't have moving parts like the pop race. The pop race is just as nice as this. It doesn't roll that great because the wheels are catching a little bit. These usually end up rolling a little bit better. And these have moving parts and are just as detailed. Actually, they're more detailed because they got the motors all detailed. But I still think that... Let me turn this light off. I still think that this is decent. And that, people, that is the story of the Godzilla Skyline. That is how it started. You know, these guys had the reputation, the Japanese had the reputation of really being able to push out the reputation of the Godzilla Skyline by winning every race. You can look at that online and watch those races. I've watched them many times. The Australians and those Australian cars, that's where it started. That's who came up with it. That's why it is and where it is what it is now. Now, the thing is, okay, here's the thing. Here's what you know about the truth of it. There is no other truth other than that. That's what it is. And that the R32 is the true Godzilla. Now, this has morphed. This has evolved. This has changed. It ain't even necessarily, it's Australians, but it's just people around the world and everybody involved with this Godzilla thing and these Nissans that are GTRs, not even necessarily Skylines, just GTRs, and not even necessarily R32s. But the evolution and the morphing and the history is evolving. And you're getting into different Godzillas. That's what will be explained in another video, will be the evolution of the Godzilla GTR. This is just the origin story, the birth of it, of how it started. But it's morphed off of that, which I will talk about in another video another time. Thank you for watching, and have a good one.